I call the honourable member Claire Curran.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm not a Smurfs fan, I have to say. Monsters Inc., I reckon, Monsters Inc. There's a few of them on the other side of the house. Mr Speaker, look, there has to be a circuit breaker on copyright and intellectual property in New Zealand, on the laws and on the whole of the policy regime that surrounds that. There has to be a circuit breaker for that. This bill is not that circuit breaker. And I've got a bit more to say on that, but this bill is not that circuit breaker. It's a temporary measure. It's a temporary measure, and yes, it's a bit vexed, and yes, as I think you might have gathered, there's grudging support for it on this side of the House. And after a lot of thought and discussion, but there has to be a circuit breaker on copyright and intellectual property in this country, and there has to be a wider debate on what needs to happen next. This bill is the continuation of a temporary measure, and there's a bit of a difference between the opposition parties here tonight on whether we came down on which side we came down on. But ultimately, one of the best things about the process that this bill has shown evidence of is that around the Select Committee on which it was debated, there was pretty much unanimous support about the actual issues that we're addressing. And I think that, if anything good has come out of this process, it is that there is now an acknowledgement of the influence of the digital environment in the copyright area, and the fact that the movie industry has to change. And at least out of this process, while we've got a time-limited bill in front of us, Labor's pretty much come down on the position. In fact, our minority report states that the time period when it should expire should actually be earlier than what the bill says. But there is a time limit, and there's been a very, very clear message given to the industry that if they come before the Select Committee again, they're not going to get any truck because they have to change. And that's the fact of the matter. Ultimately, there needs to be for our creative and internet industries, we have to have a review of copyright laws. And there was supposed to be a review of all of the gamut of copyright law in this country this year, but that side of the House, the government, decided that that wasn't the direction they were going to go down, and ultimately they said that that was because of the process through the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, which is a shame. It's a shame for our country. And they've abandoned that commitment to hold a review this year. We say that they should have undertaken a review, and that what we will do when we are elected next year is immediately undertake such a review, because it's so important that we try and address the wider issues that are involved in copyright and how people are accessing content in this country and around the world, but the impact that that has on our laws and why it's so important that we get this right. We consider that, and our minority report said that we consider that New Zealanders should be able to access media in the same time frame as others in different countries. And I have to say that the argument used on that side of the House is for one of the reasons for supporting this bill is around movies being watched in the school holidays is actually a spurious argument in this day and age. There was very dubious evidence provided to the Select Committee on that particular matter. The main reason that why Labor is supporting this bill grudgingly, as I have said, is because of the impact on smaller cinemas around the country and their transition to the digital exhibition technology, and that we take the view very strongly that those communities should not be disadvantaged, and that is the significant reason why we have come down on the side of supporting this bill for this limited amount of time. We supported the shortening of the ban from 9 months to 5 months within that limited time frame until what we say should be the end of 2015 rather than towards the end of 2016, because we think that the technology involved in changing from the current system to digital exhibition technology should have occurred by then. It should have occurred by now, but there are communities in New Zealand, as Jonathan Young has talked about tonight, in Hawera. I don't know about Hawera, but I certainly know that Palmerston North is one. There are lots of communities around this country where they have struggled to make that transition, and we think that it's important that they have the ability to do that without being penalised, but ultimately that is the only reason why. And so we believe that if there is a push from the movie industry to come back to Parliament in 3 years' time and say, oh, no, we haven't managed to make the transition, we need another extension, that they will get no truck. And it's absolutely important that that is made very clear today. This is the last chance for the industry to make that transition. And ultimately, that's all this bill is meant to do.
I call the honourable member
He's awake.
Gareth Hughes.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker, na mihi nui kia koutou kia ora.